56 questions to ask an atheist on Enlightio under social skills by the editors. That's all very enticing. Let's see what they say. Many people are interested in atheism but don't know how to broach the subject with atheists themselves. Asking questions is a great way to learn more about atheism and how atheists view life, the world, and morality without feeling like you're being grilled. Here are some questions you can use to start a conversation with an atheist about atheism. Well, you know I gotta take a look. Hi, my name is Scarlett, and I'm an atheist and a skeptic, and I really am interested in these questions for atheists and how they function and what they're doing. Now, this Enlightio site is not a Christian site. I took a look around on it a little bit, and it's kind of random. So I found the About page. And so they say, at Enlightio, we believe that curiosity is the engine of progress. It's what drives us to learn new things, to explore new horizons, and to make the world a better place. We like the sound of that, don't we? We're dedicated to providing our readers with information and insights on everything from self-improvement to interesting facts about art and culture. What I read is, this is a bunch of random stuff. We know that curiosity is a powerful tool, and we hope that our blog can be a source of inspiration and enlightenment for curious minds everywhere. Thanks for visiting Enlightio. I don't know if this means that there are experts on this site or not. It just sounds like a bunch of people who wanted to write a blog and about a lot of random stuff. I found that there are indeed lots of different things: lifestyle, literature, education, politics, a lot of pages about why is X important? Like, why is photography important? Why is patriotism important? Why are fossils important? Just really all kinds of random things that you could look up, and I don't know, this all kind of looks like a little bit of fun. They also have lots of these questions to ask people, like this 656 interesting questions to ask. The most extensive list. I have no doubt that is true. Like, who wants to type up 656 interesting questions to ask? So anyway, this isn't a Christian website trying to proselytize. It's not a Muslim site trying to proselytize. So I'm kind of curious, what kind of questions, if you're not trying to lead someone to Jesus or Allah or whatever, what kind of questions would you come up with, and to what end? How good are they, etc., etc.? I thought it would be fun to evaluate. So going back to the page, I start at the bottom because they have these frequently asked questions after all of the questions that they asked, the 56. Why do people become atheists? Now, one might think that that should be up with the questions, and maybe it is. I haven't looked at all the questions yet. I've just kind of skimmed through them. But why do people become atheists? That should be a personal question. Why did your interlocutor become an atheist? But let's see what the FAQ says. There are many reasons why people become atheists. Some people become atheists because they don't believe in God or any other higher power. I would say that's it. That's the only one that you really need here. But the FAQ goes on. Others become atheists because they disagree with the religious beliefs of their family or friends. Well, that only matters if part of the disagreement is over the belief in a God. Otherwise, you're still a theist and you disagree with your family. You know, come on. Some people become atheists because they don't like the rules and regulations that go along with religious belief. Okay, now fail FAQ. This is like double fail. Disagreeing with family and not liking the rules and regulations with religious beliefs. Come on. Fail. Super fail. And still others become atheists simply because they want to think for themselves and make their own decisions about religion. Again, the main thing is you don't believe in a God. Maybe you adopt a religion that doesn't have a God, but this is like a super fail of an FAQ. This does not bode well for these questions, people, but let's go on. There's another question. The FAQ has 2 questions, so frequently 2 asked questions, I guess. What do atheists believe in after death? Again, this seems like it should be a question up there for the atheist you're talking to. Hey, but what do I know? I'm not writing a page of social interaction. Atheists don't believe in an afterlife, so they don't really believe in anything after death. Well, some might. I mean, some could possibly believe that you go back to the universe and your consciousness gets dissolved back in the universe or something like that. Some atheists believe that when you die, that's it. You're done. Others may believe that you come back in another form, but ultimately nothing is waiting for us after this life is over. Like, if you come back, that is something waiting for us, I suppose. If, like, it's infinite reincarnation, that is a life after death. I don't know. whatever. This is a very strange FAQ. There's a conclusion to the page. Conclusion. These questions provide a good starting point for anyone who wants to better understand atheism and atheists. Of course, not all atheists will have the same answers to these questions because atheism isn't a unified belief system with a set of dogmatic doctrines to believe in. Applause. Yes. Thank you. Conclusion to the FAQ and page and whatnot. Awesome. That is so true. Nevertheless, these questions can give you a general idea of what it means to be an atheist and how atheists see the world around them. Who knows, maybe answering these questions will help you better understand your own beliefs. Okay, so wait a minute. Are you supposed to be answering the questions yourself, or are these supposed to be conversation starters? Or do the questions themselves help you understand what it means to be an atheist? This is a ridiculous little paragraph. Talking to an atheist will help you understand what that atheist believes in, and it will give you an idea of what is out there. But, like the first paragraph said, it's not a set of dogmatic doctrines. It's not a set of beliefs. It's the rejection of one belief, and then everything else is up for grabs. All right, having looked at the end of the page, and let's keep our fingers crossed that these are good questions, but I'd like to look at the questions just to see what are the implications of the questions, not necessarily to answer all 56 questions. It's so many. All right, here we go. Number 1, how can you be sure that God doesn't exist? Well, atheists don't necessarily think that God doesn't exist, so there's no certainty to begin with. Make sure you know that the atheist in question thinks that God doesn't exist. Start with, how certain are you that God doesn't exist? Or something like that. This is like a mediocre start. All right. 2, what do you mean when you say you're an atheist? Much better question. Excellent. Now you'll get an idea of what the atheist in question believes. 3, how did you arrive at your atheistic beliefs? I think that's a very good question. You might get a whole story out of a person. Anyway, you get their thought process. Number 3 is good. Number 4, do you think there's anything inherently wrong with believing in God? I think that's an interesting question. I don't see anything wrong with that question. You can get all kinds of different answers from different people. 5, do you believe that believers are ignorant? I don't see anything wrong with the question, but I think that this is a leading question, making you think that, oh my gosh, maybe atheists do think that believers are ignorant. And of course, some do think that, so it's a fine question. I just think that it gives the idea, like if you're just going to look at these questions and not go ask an atheist, I think it could give you the wrong impression. Let's look at the next 5. All right, 6. How do atheists deal with evil and suffering in the world? Yeah, fair question. I think it's good that atheists explain this, although my beef with this set of questions is I think it would be better to ask, how do you explain evil and suffering, and not atheists, because the atheist in question is going to answer on their behalf. I mean, some atheists can give more generalized questions, but again, if we're curious about what that person believes, you're not explaining what atheists believe, but your own. So every time we see atheists, that's a ditto on all of these. It should be, what do you do? How do you explain? And so on. 7, where do atheists get their moral compass if they don't believe in God? Fair question, especially if this is not a leading question to say, oh, you can't possibly have a moral compass or a sense of morality without God, and gotcha questions and so on. So this is fine. 8, do atheists sometimes feel they're missing out because they don't believe in God? I guess this is okay. It's fine. It's just kind of weird. I don't know. I mean, it's a fine question to ask out of curiosity, but it just seems kind of bizarre. 9, how would your life change if you believed in God? I think this is a fair question. This is okay to ask because probably your life would change, although I would say I don't know that mine would change a whole lot, really. But 10, what do atheists believe happens after death? Oh, so it is in here. It's not just in the FAQ down below. All right, that's great. This is good to ask again. What do you think happens after death? Although I think most atheists would say, nothing. You're dead and that's it. Next 5. 11, do you think religion is harmful to society? Yeah, I think this is good. I think this could get some really good discussion going. 12, what do atheists think about religious art and architecture? Yeah, I think this is fine. Why not? Very interesting discussion. I just think art is cool. There are lots of discussions you can have about that. 13, have you ever been discriminated against because you're an atheist? Ooh, I like that this question is asked, and I think you could broaden it out to have you felt judged inappropriately, like lots of assumptions about you because you say you're an atheist. Really good question. 14, are there any famous or well-known atheists I should know about? Yeah, that's kind of interesting, although, like, I don't know, who cares? I mean, I like the representation. I don't know, it's a fine question. It's okay. 15, do you believe that humans are inherently good or bad? Yeah, I think that's an okay question to ask, and again, get some good discussions going. 16, how do you define morality and what role does it play in your life? Well, we had the moral compass question above. I know it is like a random set of questions, so I guess it's fine if there's the same question repeated. This isn't like it's somebody trying to convince you of anything. These really are questions to get you thinking. What role does it play in your life? Well, what role is morality supposed to play? I think maybe we should ask a broader question, like what role does morality play in people's lives? 17. Do you think atheists can be moral people? You're asking this of an atheist? Like, I think this is a very weird question. I think the basis for this question is very strange, and it speaks to me of a person who's not used to being around atheists. But can you imagine, like, hey, do you think that you can be a good person? Like, that's the question you're going to ask? I wouldn't ask this. I think this is just a bizarre question. It's a yes-no question, too. Like, yes-no questions are less interesting in general. But 18, do you think religion is harmful or helpful? Didn't we have this one already? Again, I know it's a random list of questions, but I don't know. Maybe sometimes those little sub-explanations are good because then you could put these similar questions. Let's just move on. 19, what do you think is the meaning and purpose of life, if any? I do like the if any on there, and I think this is a good question to ask. Like, this could get some really good discussions going, so very good question. And I like the notion that you could just say if any, because maybe you're a person that doesn't think you need meaning and purpose. You just live your life and are having a good time and whatever. Good question. I really like number 19. 20, how do you deal with doubt or moments when you question your beliefs? You know, I think this is a really good question, and it really could open you up to talking about skepticism if you feel like you're a skeptic and if you feel like you're trying to apply critical thinking, and talk to people about this. But, you know, I think a lot of atheists, especially skeptical atheists, would just say, well, you know, I don't know is a perfectly fine question. And I think a lot of us deal really well with ambiguity and gray areas. But I think that's a good question to ask. Moving on. 21. What role do logic and reason play in your belief system? Excellent question. I like it. I think that it's really good, especially for skeptical atheists, for people who are using critical thinking. Very good question. 22. Has your atheism ever caused problems in your personal relationships? This is a very interesting question. I like it, and it can open up something about how maybe your family and you don't get along, or you have to avoid certain topics, or you don't see them or something. Very interesting question. 23. Do you think there's anything unique about the human experience that atheists can enjoy, appreciate? What? Do you think there's anything unique about the human experience that atheists can enjoy, appreciate? This is a very strange question. Is the question supposed to ask, is there something unique about the way atheists think? If that's not the way it sounds, I wouldn't ask this question. This is a very strange question. Like, atheists are just people doing their thing. So, I don't know. Scratch 23. Don't like it. Get rid of it. 24. What do you think are the most common misconceptions about atheism? Awesome question. Of course, I would say the most common misconception is that it is a belief system as opposed to a stance on one belief. But hey, love this question. 25. What do you think the world would be like if more people were atheists? Ah, yes. I think this opens up all kinds of good possibilities. I like it. I like the discussions it can lead to. Let's go on to the next 5. 26. What role does science play in your belief system? I think this is another great question. Again, it opens up questions about how you assess knowledge and use critical thinking and your skepticism and all of that, and the importance of science. Very nice question. 27. Do you think there's something special or sacred about humanity? I don't know. I'm not a fan of this question, but maybe that's just me. I mean, it's perfectly fine. You know, anybody can ask anything. It's just the assumption about this is a little strange to me. I think if you don't think that there's a God, what does it mean to have sacred? What does it mean to be sacred? I don't think it means anything. And obviously, I think all species have something special about them. We all of us that occupy this planet, we have something interesting and unique that we offer. Number 28, what would have to happen for you to give up your atheist beliefs? Well, I think this is just an alternative to what would it take to get you to believe in God? Like, what would God have to do? And it's just a weird question because I don't know what it would take. The God should know. The God wants the relationship. But anyway, the atheist beliefs is also sort of an awkward phrasing. I would say what would have to happen for you to believe in any given deity as opposed to give up your atheist beliefs, because it presumes that there's a cluster of beliefs around atheism. Yeah, it's just awkward. I would reword this question. 29. Do you reject all religions or just Christianity? Not a fan of this. I mean, it's fine. I think a lot of Christians think that atheism is just about rejecting Christianity, so it's fine to get at it. But I think that the basis for this question is flawed. And so I think you're still dealing with all religions. When you're an atheist, you do reject any deity. Maybe a religion that doesn't have a deity is fine. So I'm not a fan of number 29. 30. Do you believe in a higher power or a spiritual force? And this is an interesting question because there are sort of new age atheists that believe the universe or something, some energy. It's fine. I think if you're a skeptical atheist, you reject this too. But, you don't know who you're dealing with. Again, atheism is just such a cluster of all kinds of things. Let's see what the next 5 bring. 31. Do you believe that morality is objective or subjective? I think that's fine. That could get to some interesting philosophical questions. 32. What do you think about the fact that so many people throughout history have believed in God? And I'm not a fan of this question, this argument from popularity, and what do you think that people believe in all kinds of wacko things? It's not a great question, really. People believe wacko things, and they believe in different kinds of gods and different conceptions. It's not like they believed in the same conception of God. So it's not even that strong as an argumentum ad populum. It's all believe in all kinds of different gods. 33. If there's no God, why is there something rather than nothing? Oh my gosh, is this Ray Comfort or somebody like that? Oh, give me a break. Anyway, you don't have to know. I don't think this is as interesting as people think it is. So, I don't know. Discuss it if you want, but I'm not a fan. 34. How do you explain the existence of consciousness? Well, luckily, I don't have to. I can say, I don't know why we are conscious. There are some scientists out there studying it. So go ask them. Don't really need to. It's fun. These are fun. Let's go take an edible and talk about these kinds of things. But it's not really all that interesting if you're not an expert. It's just you rambling on, like I'm doing right now. Question 35. What do you believe? I love this question. This maybe should be higher up in the hierarchy. I guess these aren't hierarchical. Love it. This is awesome. Talk about what you believe. Absolutely. Moving on. 36. Do you believe that science and religion are compatible? Yeah, that could lead to some interesting questions. It's not all that interesting. It's going to depend on the religion. 37. What do you think is the most important thing to focus on in life? I think this is good for anybody, not just atheists, but hey, fine question. 38. What do you think is the best way to live one's life? Very good question. I think this connects to some other questions that were above, meaning and purpose and so on. So it should have been a sub question. Maybe they should have had topics, and these could be sub questions under topics. I don't know. I'm not the editor of this page. I'm just the person being an asshole about it. 39. How do you respond to the argument that atheism is just another form of religion? I would scoff and say that's the stupidest thing. What is your understanding of religion? And probably you've bought into some really dumb apologetics. Not a fan of this question. I mean, you can tell people that's dumb, explain why it's dumb, but not the question is just, it just is from a bad basis, I guess. 40. What do you think is the most convincing evidence for atheism? Not a fan of this question. Do not like this question. Atheism is the rejection of a position. It is not really a claim itself. It's saying, I don't believe that claim. Show me why I should believe that. Obviously, if you're an anti-theist and you want to make the claim that God absolutely doesn't exist, you might have to provide some evidence for that. But mainly this is just I don't believe you, so please show me. So not really a fan of this. You really have to ask this of a person that doesn't believe in God. Let's go on. 41. What do you think is the most convincing evidence against atheism? Yeah, I guess this is fine. Again, you have to define the position that you're talking about. So atheism, which deity are we supposed to be talking about, or what's religion? It's not like atheism is a claim, since it's the rejection of a claim. So this is awkwardly worded. I don't think this is going to get you the best discussion possible. 42. What do you think about the problem of evil? I think we asked this earlier. I guess this is a different way to get at it. I think this is a perfectly fine question, but since evil really isn't a force in the world, it's the result of actions of people. It's like, people are assholes, people do bad things. You don't need to worry about, there's not a deity basically making sure that this is all working to plan and so on. So it's like just stuff happens is the answer. It's not like you need to have some really deep philosophical position on this. Stuff happens. 43. What do you think about the idea of a secular society? Yeah, I think this is a great question. We asked something similar earlier. Again, these could have been put together a bit better. 44. Do you think religion is harmful to society? Why or why not? I think we asked that already in a different way. Still, these are good questions. 45. What do you think is the most important thing to teach children about atheism? This is a funny one. I'm not a fan of this question either, because it's like, what is important to teach? Well, like, atheism means that God doesn't exist. What I think is important to teach children, speaking for myself, is critical thinking skills, rationality skills, learning to discern who is really an expert in a field so that can speak authoritatively, how you can evaluate claims, this kind of thing. It's not really the atheism that's important. It is how to examine claims about the world that's important. So, teaching about atheism, like, it's not like teaching about Christianity, whichever Christianity. Like, here are a million things we're supposed to believe. Have fun, go to church, don't sin or whatever. All right, let's go. 46. How do you deal with the feeling of being alone in your beliefs without a community of like-minded people to support you? Not a fan at all of this question. I have lots of friends who are atheists, and there are actually all kinds of organizations you can go to meet people that are like-minded. So the assumptions of this question are just really, really terrible. Like, I have dinner with a bunch of friends. We're all atheists. We have a great time. I do things that are of my shared interests. Like, atheism is not a question about those things, so I have all kinds of clubs and activities that I do, and we bond around those activities. So this is just like a terrible question. The assumption that we're just all alone in our house with nobody to talk to. Terrible. Do not like the assumptions this question makes. 47. What do you think are the most pressing ethical issues facing humanity today? That's good for anybody, actually, much less an atheist. Like, it could be on anybody's list, basically. 48. Do you think atheists should actively advocate for atheism? I don't know about the terminology here, actively advocate. Like, should atheists defend their position, talk to people, and especially since I live in the United States where we're supposed to have separation of church and state, actively advocate for that separation. So if you want to be religious, go have fun. I think more atheists should actively advocate for a secular society would be a better way to phrase this, and also explain themselves, be ready to say like why they're atheists, why they reject Christian claims. But I'm not a fan of the wording of this. 49. What do you think are the main obstacles to atheism being more widely accepted? It's funny, like, again, atheism is not something to accept. Atheism is a position on a question. So I'm not really a fan of this question so much. Like, why do you think so many people believe in religion? But I think we all know the answer to that. You're raised in a religion. The society is just full of it. Anyway, there could be a better way to phrase this question, I think. 50. Do you think that atheism will eventually become the dominant worldview? No, because it's not a worldview. We've talked about this. Atheism is a position on a single question. Will most people become atheists? Yeah, I kind of doubt it. But anyway, I think that there's a different way. Do you think more people will become atheistic and society will become more secular? That's more of a better discussion, I think. Last set of questions. 51. What do you think is the most important thing atheists can do to improve their public image? Ooh, that's kind of interesting. I like the direction of that question. 52. What do you think is the best way to argue with someone religious? That's another interesting kind of question. Not a fan of the word argue. I mean, discuss, try to find common ground with. Argue, it actually makes it sound like we're all just entrenched in our beliefs as opposed to like what do we believe? Why do we believe it? What are good reasons? What are bases, etc.? I think have a good discussion with someone religious maybe is a better wording for that. 53, is there anything else you would like to add about atheism or your experience as an atheist? I love this kind of question. Very open-ended, very individualistic. You can get to all kinds of interesting things. Very nice question. Love it. 54, what should I do if I want to learn more about atheism? I love this question too. This one's really good. And I think you could go lots of different directions. You'll get lots of different things. 55, can you recommend any good books or resources on atheism? Yeah, this is nice. And 56, do you have any questions for me about my beliefs? Very nice. And I like the assumption that the person that you're talking to must be religious or something like that. So these questions very much are for the religious person trying to get to know an atheist. Now, this was very much a mix of questions. I liked some of them. I thought others could be reworded to be better. Some, I thought the basis for them really was terrible, not really good questions. But let me know what you think. I know a lot of you out there enjoy these questions for atheists. Was there a question or two that struck you as interesting, or a wording that you would like to have changed? Or maybe you don't like what I said at all? Put it in the comments below, and while you're down there, you can like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. You're on YouTube, you know what to do. And if you like what I do, you can buy me a coffee. Link is down in the description below, and I will see you in the next one.